Welcome to Bad Dog Agility, a podcast helping you reach all of your dog agility goals. Whether it's competing under the bright lights of the televised finals at Westminster or successfully navigating a homemade course in your own backyard, we'll bring you training tips, interviews, and news about the great sport of dog agility. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
The show starts with your hosts, Jennifer, Esteban, and Sarah.
I'm Esteban.
And I'm Sarah, and this is episode 361. Today's podcast is brought to you by St. Rocco's Treats.
It's Grace from Hounds of Hack. It's Amber from American Canine Country.
It's Cynthia from CH Dog Agility.
It's Lindsay from Y2 Canines. And we love using St. Rocco's Treats as our high
Value reward.
And you will too. Visit us at stroccostreats.shop and use the code BD30 for 30% off your first order. Enjoy the attention-grabbing flavor and easy-to-break texture that Grace, Amber, Cynthia, Lindsay, and so many others love about St. Rocco's Treats. Again, use the code BD30 for 30% off. Thank you.
And you can find a link to St. Rocco's Treats on the show notes page. Today's podcast is also brought to you by Synovitin OA. Hey dog lovers, is your furry friend limping or struggling to enjoy agility like they used to? It might be osteoarthritis, OA, a common source of pain and mobility issues in dogs that's driven by inflammation in their joints. Inflammation is the silent enemy, not only causing pain, but also accelerating the progression of OA. Synovitin OA is a groundbreaking one-time injection into the arthritic joint that targets the very cells causing the pain and inflammation. By eliminating these harmful cells, Synovitin OA breaks the cycle of inflammation, offering relief right where it's needed most. Don't let your dog suffer from the pain of arthritis. Visit ActiveDogNow.com to learn more about Synovitin OA and give your dog the gift of long-lasting pain-free movement. Studied in canine elbows, Synovitin OA is given by authorized veterinarians. Temporary discomfort in the treated joints may occur. Talk to a treating veterinarian near you for more information and visit ActiveDogNow.com. Today is a very special podcast specifically for those of you going to the AKC National Agility Championship that is happening this weekend, and many of you are going to be on the road right now, and we wanted to tape a podcast to give you some last-minute mental prep, get your mind straight for this championship event.
Now, this podcast is just going to be me and Sarah because Jennifer is already on her way to Tulsa. And actually, Sarah, you're going to be joining her in just a few days.
That's right.
But you are going to be flying, and my understanding is you will not be there Thursday, which is the practice day, but you will be there Friday and through the end of Sunday.
That's right. I will not be running a dog. I'm going there to spectate, to be a Bad Dog Agility representative. We have a booth this year, so everybody should come and say hi if you are a podcast listener. And
if you're a VIP member, Sarah has a little special treat for you.
That's right. Oh, I thought you were going to give it away, but you saved it and said special treat. Yes, a little special treat for the VIP. And also, I will be there running the before and after online course, which is a really cool video series that we do every year. We follow Jen through the event. So she takes a look at every single map before she runs it, and she does a quick analysis of the map, talking about like where the challenges are and how she's planning on running it and things like that. That's the before of the before and after. And then after she runs, she does an analysis of her run. So you kind of get to hear what went right, what went wrong, if things went according to plan, if she made any adjustments when she did the walkthrough. So it's really getting kind of inside the mind of the competitor.
Years ago, Sarah came up with this idea for the before and after, and I love it. It's very different from when people share their post-run analyses, right? There you have the hindsight of having watched everybody else run, having your run, and not getting down kind of your thinking beforehand. It always seems to change. And this is a way for top handlers like Jennifer. I did it myself when I was competing at Nationals, and it's just a great window into how top competitors, people who are gunning for finals and winning the event, how they think before they run. And so you get some really, really good insight there.
I think it's also really interesting to hear from them sometimes when things don't go well, and kind of hearing that recovery and how they handle the mental side of things.
The self-talk.
Yes. Exactly. And then this year, we're also joined by 2 guest athletes that will be doing 1 round each. They don't do the map. They just do an analysis of their run. But it gives us some other size dogs and other breed dogs. And this year, we have the defending 24-inch champion, Lori Barbie, with Weimaraner Sterling, and also Danica Hedges with Papillon Flint in the 8-inch class. So each of them will pick 1 round to do. And if they happen to make challengers or finals, they will also do that round. So you'll get to hear their thinking on their runs as well. So if you want to sign up for that, there will be a link to that in the show notes. But that is the long version of why I am going to the event, is to help run this online course that we're doing.
All right. Well, that's the before and after. It's a super cheap way, just $49 to get some insight, follow along the event kind of live, but also get that insight from top competitors into what happened on their runs. And more importantly, from Jen before the runs happen.
All right. So now let's talk about how you can maximize your AKC experience this year.
The number one thing that I think we need to talk about is mindset and expectations. And this is something that I got better with over the years. First, you want to know yourself and your dog. Hopefully you have already set very realistic expectations based on your training and experience, both you and your dog, right? And so I think that is absolutely critical, because we start to have problems when our results don't match our expectations. And here, I think, is a very critical point. This is something I hear from people all the time, maybe from you. Tell me if this sounds like you. I want you to avoid the trap of thinking, I didn't make finals, so it wasn't worth the trip, right? And I want you to instead have the mindset that the trip is always worth it, okay? And so there's some psychology behind this kind of thinking, this negative thinking that competitors have. And competitors often tie their self-worth to results, right? And so there's a huge fear of wasting time, right? A lot of you have taken time out of your work schedules, right? You have very scarce holidays and time off allotted to you, and you're using that for this big trip. Money, right? You've invested money, set aside money to pay for the hotel and the travel and the food and the entries and all of that. And I think fear of wasting your time and money stems from a scarcity mindset, right? And avoidance of disappointment. And so people will begin telling themselves this on the way to the trial. Hey, it's not going to be worth it unless we make the final. In fact, there are people who choose not to enter the trial at all, to not even have the experience, because they are so afraid of having to deal with disappointment. And so, in a very logical way, the mind comes at you with this idea that, oh, well, I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste my money. And what are the odds of me making the finals or getting 3 clean runs? We've never gotten 3 clean runs in a weekend. I haven't had a double Q in 6 months, right? And so this is some of the flawed thinking that we have that really comes from psychological fear. And so to all of you, I would say you need to reframe the trip as a growth opportunity, right? So instead of a scarcity mindset, we want that growth mindset, to borrow, very popular phrases in business and pop psychology. And thinking of it that way, rather than a kind of pass-fail kind of event, that's going to give you a much more positive experience.
Yeah, I'm going to channel my inner Jennifer Crank, because she's like the queen of short, succinct phrases that sum up what might take you and me several sentences to get through.
Oh, I hear you. I talk too much. Okay.
And one of the things that she's said a lot is, you win or you learn. That's her phrase. It's like every time you go to an event, you either do great and you win, or if you don't win, you learn something about yourself, about your dog, about your skills, about, where your holes are in training. And so I think that can be a really good attitude to take, that everything is just knowledge. I think another way that you can, I feel like people, there will be different things that resonate with different people. So I think another thing that you might be able to logically understand is that you going to the event this year, even if you don't do well, might be one of the pieces that allows you to do better or make finals or whatever next year, or even next dog. Because every time you go to nationals, you become more familiar with the format. The nerves will be a little bit less because it won't be, like if this is your first nationals, that's different from your fifth nationals. And so you can also kind of reframe it as instead of thinking this is nationals, it is like the one thing, the big thing, the finale. It's not the finale. It's a big event in your calendar that spans a decade with your dog. And there will be other big events and there will be other things that you do. And so all of this experience will help you there. I think there's another, thing that, I'm going to put a link in the show notes to an analysis. It's quite old. We did it in 2015, but I think it illustrates things quite well. I think that sometimes people are surprised by who can make the finals. We'll get a little bit more into structure, but generally, it's not just the fastest dog that makes the finals. You've got to put together 3 clean runs. It's not only going to be the fastest dogs. If you plot all the dogs in the height class in terms of yards per second, you're going to get dogs that are kind of like at the middle 50% mark. So there are very few dogs that are like completely out of the running.
Even if you do feel like you have a dog that's kind of out of the running or going in, that your dog is in the lower half in terms of yard per second in general. I always think about how this impacts me as the handler. So for example, let's say you're going to have 3 dogs over the course of your career. Your first dog was your novice A, your learning dog, and you never went to nationals. You didn't compete enough to qualify for that event. Now with the second dog, you have the option of attending nationals. Go ahead and go, because maybe it's that third dog that suddenly is like a real finals contender, right? And I don't want my first nationals to be with that dog. I want to have that experience with a different dog. I want to obtain experience as a human. So I think those are very good points to make, but maybe a little less relevant since people who are listening to this podcast, I guess there's going to be a fair amount of people listening to this podcast who are not actually attending AKC Nationals or competing in it. So just something to think about for next time.
In terms of whether or not you enter.
Yeah. So go ahead and take that on.
Another thing that I've often said about AKC Nationals is that to me, it feels like one part big national event, like the agility part of it, right? Mm-hmm. One part convention, right? There's all the booths, there's all the shopping, there's, all the hustle and bustle and things like that. And one part reunion. So when I look at it that way, even if the agility part doesn't go as planned, I still have, these other aspects of the event that I really like. I like being able to see people once a year that is the only time I see them face to face, right? I like meeting people that I've only met online previously. So I think that having other things about the event that you enjoy besides just the agility part is helpful too.
Yeah, I think the social aspect can be huge. This way you're always a winner, right? Even before you show up, the experience, the preparation, qualifying, all those things make you a winner, and it kind of separates you from the outcome or the results, right? So it's not tied to your self-esteem. So your self-esteem doesn't take that hit. And if your self-esteem never takes that hit, then you don't need to psychologically protect yourself by not trying, or telling yourself after, berating yourself for taking the time off of work, spending the money, the time, the effort to qualify and attend and travel to the event.
As our kids would say, the true treasure is the friends you make along the way.
They do like to say that. It's pretty hilarious. Okay, let's get to the overall strategy. Now we're going to focus a little bit more on the competitors who are actually attending the event. Your goal at AKC Nationals, obviously you can have several goals, and your goal doesn't necessarily need to be to make the finals. But for the vast majority of competitors, that's what we're going for here. You want to make the finals. Some people are content to make the finals or the challenger round. The challenger round can be quite exciting. We will talk about that in just a minute. You want to structure your approach based on you and your dog. And rule number one, hot tip number one, it happens almost every year. Make sure you stay. Do not leave after round 3, right? We have 3 rounds, a jumping round, a standard round. Round 3 is a hybrid round, right? Then you have the challenger round. The winner in each height class of the challenger round gets an automatic spot into the finals. The finals takes the top 7% of dogs from each height, right? So think of the challenger round winner as an add-on, a wild card, right? And we'll explain how you get into the challenger round. But the whole point is stay until you're 100% sure you are not in the final and you are not in the challenger round, because we have had people leave. They don't understand the rules of the challenger round. They assume that because they don't have 3 clean runs that they have been eliminated from contention.
Or I think a lot of times people just think that they weren't fast enough. They didn't place, right? They think of challenger round as being the top four, right?
We'll get into that.
Right.
So just the point is, make sure that you are waiting around until they announce it for your height class. Do not leave. All right. Okay. Next overall strategic point is that in general, clean runs matter much more than usual, right? And I will allow that to dictate my handling in a way I would almost never in a local trial. To me, a local trial is all about testing, trying different skills. Can I do this tough course with all front crosses? Can I do it all with rear crosses because I want to practice my rear crosses, right? I'm going to take an extra long lead out because I'm retraining a dog's start line stay and I really want to test them. I am not going to be doing any of that at AKC Nationals in rounds 1, 2, and 3. Now I may do that on the warm-up day, and we'll talk about the warm-up day in just a second. So I'm talking about weave entries. I'm going to give the dog whatever help I think they need. Now's not the time for me to test their weave entry ability, right? I'm going to kind of stay with them. And management of contacts. So if I need a front cross in front of a teeter and be like, whoa, and stay there and please don't fly off for the love of God, and to say their name 8 times, I will do that, right? In the preliminary rounds at AKC Nationals. And then I think I already mentioned start line. So this is the one time I will let a little twitching on the start line go. If my dog stands up and maybe I try to get them to sit back down, maybe I don't. But if I do try and get them to sit back down and they don't, I am not going to blow up my run and come and start all the way back at the start line. I will release them there, knowing that there may be some issues in the next few rounds or something that I need to fix after AKC Nationals, right? But this is going to be the one time I'm going to be a little bit permissive on some things, right? Because it's kind of the whole point of your season. You're building up to this big event.
So I'm a stats person, so I want to bring a few numbers here to really illustrate numerically why the value of 3 clean runs is so high. So I just took a look at the 20-inch height class from last year because it's the biggest class. And in the 20-inch height class, there were 31 dogs that went 3 clean. That's it. Only 31 dogs went 3 clean. And 24 of those 31 made the finals. So there were only 7 dogs that went 3 clean and did not make finals. That is how powerful 3 clean runs is. If you have 3 clean runs, you are highly likely to make finals. All right, so now let's talk about the warm-up runs because it can be a little confusing, especially if you haven't done nationals before. And even in those of you who have done it, I want to make sure that your head's on right for the runs that happen before the standard jumpers and hybrid rounds. And that is what is called the warm-up day and the Premier ISC speed stakes. So the warm-up day is truly a warm-up day. I believe you get just time in the ring. You can take a toy. I think there's a judge to make sure that nobody does anything unsafe, but basically you get to do whatever you want in the warm-up, and everybody treats it as such. Now, the Premier / ISC, and you get to choose one or the other, Premier or ISC, there's money to be won, so that's kind of fun. I think some of the prizes can get up for the big classes, like the twin-inch class, can get up to several $100s. So there is prizes to be won. However, these rounds do not affect the National Agility Championship at all. And my opinion is you should think of this as a second warm-up, because you are here for the National Agility Championship and you do not want to do something in your premier run, like maybe push your teeter, allow a fly off, have a problem at the start line, have a problem with your stopped contact. You do not want to have that be the last thing that you do before you go into the National Agility Championship. So I would run them for sure. I think if you're having a great run, great. But if your dog makes a mistake, I would do something like use your fix and go to have a second shot at the contact, for example. I would not let things slide in this run.
Yeah, you want to get the dog in the mindset like, oh, okay, this may even be a practice training seminar or something, not the National Agility Championship, right?
Right.
You got a toy in the ring here on day 1. Now day 2, mom's making me redo the whole entire dog walk. Okay, I better stick it. I better stay on here, right? And then by the time you get to day 3, the dog's like, okay, this is the 3rd day I've been here. I got the drill, mom. I'm going to make sure that I nail all the contacts and do all the weaves on the first try, just like you want me to. So that's kind of the mindset that we're shooting for here with a lot of dogs. I think that one other thing to note is there are going to be some of you who, because of scheduling, travel conflicts, things like that, you're going to miss the warm-up day. You may even miss the second day. I've done it both ways, where I've done everything and where I've done nothing and just showed up and started with round 1. And I think you can just have a lot of flexibility here. There's nothing that you absolutely need. And I think we're going to get into that a little bit later in the podcast. But just having the mindset of flexibility, right? You and your dog can do perfectly well if you missed a warm-up day. You can do perfectly well if you are terrible in Premier or ISC, right? And your dog is flying off of contacts and you're missing things. Your dog can still put together a great performance. Yeah,
the schedule is a little bit interesting this year because the Premier and the ISC are in the morning on Friday, and then the first round of NAC is right after that. And for the 20-inch class, it's moved even earlier. So you really kind of get right into the National Agility Championship right after that Premier and ISC run. But I think the one benefit of that schedule is that at the end of Friday, you have only run one day of AKC Nationals. And as we will get into with how you make the challengers round, you could have an absolutely horrible day Friday and you are still not out of it for getting into the challengers round or the finals.
That's right. So next, let's talk about the challenger round. Okay. And so the challenger round, you get there by essentially not making the finals the old fashioned way. So the old fashioned way to make the finals is to be the top 7% in your height class, right? And typically, not every single class for every single year, especially for the preferred dogs, this is not the case. But for most years, most height classes, especially the non-preferred height classes, you do need 3 clean runs, right? As soon as you fault, as soon as you drop a bar, miss a contact, you are out of the running because you're not going to have 3 clean, right? You have to have 3 clean first. It is faults, then they go by time.
Right. Okay? To be clear, you don't have to, but practically that is what happens.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, that's how it's going to play out.
Correct.
Right? And that's where people get very frustrated. But there's a cool thing that happens. The AKC says, we are going to have one wild card spot in the final. That wild card spot is going to be the winner of the challenger round. And we want this wild card spot in general to go to a dog that's quite fast and has a chance at finishing in the top 4. Kind of like a true second chance, right? And the way they're going to determine that spot is they're going to say, okay, we're going to take the top 4 dogs from round 1, the top 4 from round 2, and the top 4 from round 3. In theory, that could get you 12 different dogs. And then we're going to run those 12 dogs in a winner takes all, fantastic, spectacular event that we call the challenger round.
Right. And this is where people sometimes get confused because that is kind of the high level version of the challenger round. But then there's all these little nitpicky rules. Right.
Okay,
So like the first nitpicky rule is they're taking the top 4 dogs that didn't already make it into the finals.
Right. So let's say that you run round 1. And for your height class, it is a jumpers round, jumpers with weaves. And you put in a fabulous round and you get 5th place. And you're like, oh man, I almost made challenger, but I didn't finish in the top 4. But it turns out that when you look at the 4 dogs that beat you in jumpers at the end of the weekend, at the end of round 3, all 4 of those dogs have 3 clean runs and have qualified to the finals. Guess what that makes you? That makes you
the first challenger round dog out of that round.
You are now the top dog from that jump height. So you are going to get one of the 4 challenger spots. Assuming that also, I believe you need 2 clean rounds.
That's right. So there's
2 of your 3 need clean. So let's say this. So this is another thing. So someone says, okay, well, I finished 5th in round 1 and oh, my dog dropped a bar in round 2. Now I'm out. For sure. I can't get my 3 clean runs. Guys, I might as well go home.
No.
Literally, people have done this.
Right.
To get a jump on going back and so they can start crying in the car. But if that person had stayed and run round 3, guess now what?
All they need to do is be clean.
They didn't even need a fast run in round 3.
They didn't need a fast run.
You just need a clean round because you need 2 out of 3 clean, right? And you need 1 placement round. Now this person gets to be in the challenger round.
And I wanted to take a step back and talk about the challenger round because I love this round. It happens in its own ring. So, the first 3 rounds of competition, there will be, 4, I think, rings. I haven't looked this year, but 4 or 5 rings, 3 to 5 rings, something like that, all running the same standard course, all running the same hybrid course, right? It's all split up. But by the time you get to challengers and finals, there is just 1 ring. It's in the main arena with all of the seating, with all of the best, backdrops and posters and, ring gating and all of that. And it is a true spotlight event. This is what people are going to be watching. There's nothing else running at the same time. It's going to be on AKC TV. Like it is almost like a finals before the finals. It is that exciting. It is that prestigious. Like people love the challengers round. So I personally really do look at it as kind of just a teeny step below finals, but a huge step above the preliminary rounds. And I would be very, very happy to be competing into it.
Okay, there's one other rule you need to know and understand about the challenger round. You have to run clean in the challenger round as the winner in order to go to the final. Guess what? If you win, let's say a bunch of you all drop 1 bar and you have the best time, you're thinking, oh, I just won the challenger round. I'm going to the final. Nope. The American Kennel Club says absolutely not. You are not going because you did not run clean. So
I think that this mainly comes into play because it is winner take all. So I don't think that you can just go out there and kind of, run to be clean.
Right.
You do have to run to win. I think the one place this matters most is if everybody has faulted and you're the last dog. Just run clean.
It's possible though, because the seeding for the challenger round is not perfectly correlated to speed. So it's possible that the fastest dog is not necessarily running last.
That's true.
So even if I'm running second or third to last and no one's got a clean run, I would emphasize running clean. And that is going to put a tremendous amount of pressure on the one or two dogs behind you, because now they have to run clean and beat you, right? So again, clean runs, super duper valuable. Now, if there is already a clean run in front of you and you know that that time is going to be very difficult for you and your dog to beat,
You got to beat it.
go for it, because literally you get nothing for second place. You don't get a ribbon. No one pats you on the back. No one remembers. So, really go for it. And when we get to the finals, you'll see how the strategy is very different from challenger round. And I would not be making the same recommendation there for the final. So now let's talk about the finals. Number 1, wear black pants or black shorts. They put it right there in the premium. They are going to provide you with a shirt, and that's what you need to be wearing. So do that. You should have already packed it. And I feel like it is part of my mental prep for an event. When I go and I say, where are my black pants? Because these are the pants that I am going to wear in the finals. Okay. And so for those of you, some of you maybe deliberately did not pack black pants, I want you to go before you have your first round run and lock up those pants from a friend somewhere and say, hey, do you have a pair of pants that I can borrow? Because this is a psychological investment in yourself, your dog, and your own performance and self-worth. Certainly you're worthy of wearing the black pants or shorts. Okay. So final strategy. There again is tremendous value in running clean, right? And that is because finals is not a winner-take-all proposition. Yes, the winner will be the National Agility Champion. Yes, they get that sweet NAC before your registered name, your dog's registered name, or PNAC, right? If you are running preferred. But they also give you really sweet ribbons for the top 4. And I believe they go all the way out to the top 8. Right? So even after a fault, you want to make sure that you are doing your absolute best to try and do as well as you can in that round. Don't just be like, it's over, because there's some nice ribbons out there, and top 4, you're going to get a photo. It's going to be fantastic. You're going to feel great about finishing 4th place. So there is a lot of value to running clean, even if you can't win. There's also a lot of strategy here, right? Because you want to be strategic based on where you are seated. So, Sarah, you mentioned how many dogs made the 20-inch final? I believe you said it was 24.
It was 24 plus 1.
Okay, right. And
Last
that
year.
1 came from the challenger round, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, first, let's say, where that challenger round dog runs in the order?
Random seed.
But
not last.
But not last. So it'll just be a random draw. So you have no idea where that dog is going to pop up. Everyone else is going to run reverse seated. So assuming everybody got 3 clean runs, they add up all your times and they say, okay, fastest dog, you're running last. Slowest dog, cumulative time, you're running first. So the dogs are going to get faster. Okay. Now, if you are in that final group, and again, absolutely depends on what height class, if it's preferred or regular. And I say preferred, not because all the dogs are slower, but because there tend to be fewer finalists, right? So in the preferred round, you could be running first. There's only 6 dogs running, 7 dogs running, and you're running first. You have a very good chance of winning. Let's make sure we lock up that clean run and put a lot of pressure on the entire height class. Now, if you are the first or second dog running in the 20-inch class and you run clean, you probably have no shot at the top 8.
But you had your moment in the spotlight.
Yes. Fantastic. Congratulations. You have made one of the toughest finals in all of agility. Okay. But the strategies are different. And so if you are a contender, you kind of got to figure out, well, what am I contending for? Right? Am I going for one of the top 4 ribbons because I know that I have stop contacts? The top 3 dogs all have, or the top 4 or 5 dogs all have running contacts. And at least one of them is going to run clean and make it, right? And they're going to win, and there's no way we can beat that. So a lot of people may mistakenly in this situation, if you have the dog that definitely can't win to several other dogs, they may make the mistake of pushing as fast as they possibly can and pushing their stop contacts to the point where maybe they miss their stop contacts and they take a fault. Don't do that. Take your clean run And you never know when all 5 dogs fault, because there's this amazing psychological phenomenon that happens in every final and every agility event, including the World Championship. And part of me thinks it's hilarious because it's completely a mental issue that apparently top competitors just don't want to prepare for. But the pressure builds when there's like a domino effect. You know what I'm talking about. We have seen it. It doesn't happen every year, but when it happens, it's so blatant, right? And they blame the judges, the courses, the everything, right? But they don't blame their own psychology. Once you see people start making mistakes, people get distracted. They're not as focused on their runs. And every next non-clean run reinforces the non-clean run that happened before it. And then suddenly you have a cascade of failures. And bam, you're the national champion, right? Because people could not hold their psychology, their mindset together. So if you have a dog, you kind of have a sense. You can look at the results, and the result to look at when you are sizing up your competition is not the overall cumulative. No, don't do that. This is everything. All your placements are determined only on this standard round. So guess what you should do?
Look at standard.
Go back and look at your standard round and see how you did compared to that dog. Now, there's going to be some deception here. This is especially relevant to classes where you know a lot of dogs have running contacts. Okay. There are running contacts dogs. You can kind of tell from their times that they're running contacts dogs. But some of them may be very inconsistent and you don't know. Right? So don't just assume that they're going to be 100%. Running contacts dogs, they do miss. Right? So you might have some unreliable dogs in the final. They may miss. The other thing is you're going to have dogs that have stop contacts, and the handler knows that they stop them, they take their time, they take even 1 or 2 seconds, and they know 3 clean runs are still going to be in the final, but their dog has serious ability to win and maybe is even competitive with some running contact dogs. And they will quick release in the finals, right? So you need to know that there are those dogs out there, right? So it kind of depends on where you are, right? But in general, if the top seed is untouchable, focus on running clean, hope that they fault rather than pushing your dog to the very edge, if that makes sense. Now, it is a personal choice. I'm not saying that you have to do this. This, in my opinion, is the optimal strategy. That if I took a large group of dogs over large enough number of years and all this stuff will yield you the best results and the highest placements.
I think it's probably a really great strategy for anybody who is seated kind of like middle down, right?
Yes.
Like if you're in the, or even like the bottom 2/3, this is a good strategy. If you're in like the top 1/3, that's where I think, you know, for most classes, it can really be anybody's run, and you want to go have like the best run that your dog can do.
Right. Related to this, you need to figure out, well, you don't need to. Okay, I'm going to call this optional, and the option depends on how good your dog's teeter is. A little bit on the contact, but mostly the teeter. In the finals, they will use a spotter for the dog walk down contact. So there will be very few mistakes made, judging mistakes made on that. However, there are many judging mistakes made on the teeter. And there are some judges, they let dogs fly off. And if you got a dog that tends to be really close on the teeter and you got one of those judges, congratulations. You're probably not going to get called. But let's say you've got one of those dogs who tends to fly off, and now you've got the judge that they call it hard. You need to know that so you can manage your teeter appropriately. It might not be the moment for you to say, oh, I really need to push all my contacts and I'm going to let my teeter go. What if that's your only fault, right? And what if there are some dogs that you could beat, maybe even running contact dogs, and they get called on the teeter, right? So use this to your advantage, and you can know because the judges are already declared in advance for who is judging the final. So you can just see who is judging and then go and watch them judge hybrid or standard in your preliminary rounds to kind of get a sense for what's going on. Now, some of you may think, oh, well, you know, I don't have the time to do that. I'm running too many dogs, or I don't have the focus to do that. Maybe have a group of friends, have someone just watch 5 or 6 dogs, just get a scouting report, maybe ask around, right? That's really all you need. One last thing I will say, and this applies to all classes of runs, preliminary round, challenge round, final, it doesn't matter. Stay composed after your mistakes. Keep fighting, right? Unless your dog goes off course, in which case you have earned an elimination and you are out for that particular round. If your dog has a very close teeter, for example, don't show frustration or anger or mark it in any way. Don't look at the judge. Just keep on going, because the judge may not have noticed, but you know what a judge will notice? A judge will notice all of your theatrical reactions to a mistake that your dog makes, including potential refusals, right? So if you show frustration, if you throw your hands up, if you roll your eyes, if you look at the judge, that may unconsciously, subconsciously tip the judge off and cause them to make a call that they were not going to make. We see this happen all the time. So don't do that. Stay composed. Get focused on the next part of the run. Don't judge your dog and your run. Let the judge do that. You just do the run. Okay? And I think this transitions very well to some very basics about physical and mental preparation. Not all the stuff that has come from the past weeks and months and year-long process of you qualifying for this event and attending. This is the nitty-gritty. You are there. You're in Tulsa. You're about to get there in a day or two. We emphasize rest and recovery. So much so that I let Sarah wake up in years where she doesn't have a dog and I'm running a dog at Nationals. I let her wake up so I can sleep 10
extra minutes. Well, I take the dog out.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm trying to maximize my sleep, my rest. I'm out there trying to save my legs. This also applies to your dog, especially if they are older. I remember in particular, I think the last 2 finals maybe I did with Gitchy, where after the last run and before the finals, she took some big, long, deep naps where, she's twitching and dreaming and they need that rest. Give them that mental and physical break. Obviously, make sure they're charged up. They've got food, that they've got their water, that they're hydrated, especially if you are not used to, if you come from a more humid place or a more temperate or cooler climate and you're coming down to Tulsa and it may be warmer this weekend. Okay. Don't forget to fuel yourself properly. I think handlers do a great job with their dogs, right? And their dog routines. They are much less good about themselves. Make sure that you are eating or not eating. So I'm the kind of person who can't eat first thing. Makes me kind of sick to my stomach. Maybe it's anxiety. Maybe it's all the acid and the reflux I'm having from stress. But for whatever reason, I can't eat right away. I generally have to get the first run in. And then if I have a multi-hour long break, like 2 to 3 hours, that's when I can eat. So that'll be my first meal of the day, right? So you got to know your body. But over the course of a day, you want to have that energy, especially by that last day when you're hitting finals. If it's going to be run later in the day, the challenger round and the final, you need to make sure you get some energy. You do not need whole big meals. I generally stay away from fats, which are much slower digesting. Small amounts of protein. I'm not going to eat a steak, for example, unless I'm going to eat it maybe the night before. I kind of do it like old school athlete style, a little bit of carb loading. Yeah. So focus on carbohydrates. Again, this depends on you, your health and things like that. I want to talk about sleep. We emphasize getting rest. I'm okay with napping as long as I have enough time to get rid of my grogginess after a nap. So I think napping is perfectly fine. Power naps totally work for me. Again, you should know yourself and your own body. You don't want this to be the first time you ever tried to take a power nap. But I will add this, that a lack of sleep is okay. This freaks out a lot of people, right? Because especially if this is your first big event, you're not going to sleep very well.
Or you just don't travel very well. Or you have to go a long distance. I do not sleep well in hotels. And then you've got the people and their dog is barking next door and people waking up at 5:30, but you don't have to wake up till 6:30 and they're banging on the walls. Or you have a multi-day drive ahead of time, right? You aren't going to feel great.
Time zone change.
But you can do it.
Okay, that's right. So you and your dog can still perform at a very high level, even if you're not 100%, even if you slept only 2 hours the night before. That is real. That is validated by science. Okay. Where you run into trouble is if this is going on for multiple days in a row. So generally 1 day, no effect. 2 days, you might start to get a little effect. By 3 and beyond, you are going to see some impacts, right? Not in all cases, right? So to me, the most important night of sleep is always the second night, the night before, whenever I want to be in great, perfect shape. And then I find once you've had day one, you're much less anxious and worked up and excited. And that's where I think the warm-up days are really great to kind of help you get into the routine. Okay. Next, we want to talk about visualization. We want to use visualization, not because it's an awesome tool, which it is, but when you are busy visualizing things, guess what you're not doing? You're not focused on all the things that can go wrong, right? It is a great way to control nervous energy. Otherwise, nervous energy tends to play out in fantasies and predictions of what might happen and what could happen and what amazing things could happen and what terrible things could happen. And that is useless for performance. And for most people, it's going to tend to degrade your performance.
I just want to jump in here and also just mention ring conflicts. This is not something that affects very many people, but if you run more than one dog, you may find yourself having a ring conflict. Jen this year is running 6 dogs. I guarantee you she's going to have some ring conflicts. The key to those conflicts is to communicate with the gate steward. So they are flexible as long as you communicate with them. You don't want to just, not show up at your appointed time and then hope that they can work you in. They can't always do that. But if you're just in communication with the gate steward, figure out like what makes the most sense for your schedule and talk to them. They should be able to work it out for you.
And I think now we've covered everything that we really want to cover, and we want to end on this note. We want you to adopt a mindset of flexibility and execution. Execution is what you're going to be visualizing, right? What do my feet need to be doing when I execute this 4-step front cross, right? This is where I want to do the rear cross. This is where I imagine my dog is going to be. All of that visualization stuff, that's all about execution. So we want you to very much focus on that. And flexibility, we want you to be flexible in terms of everything else that might happen to you, right? So we focus on being flexible at all times. And we focus on execution right around the run, right? Right before the run and during the run, obviously. What do we want to avoid? We want to avoid predictive thinking traps. That's what I like to call them, predictive thinking traps. Because my dog did X earlier, now we can't make the finals. Because I don't have my favorite toy, we are doomed. It makes me think of that movie, Best in Show, right? There's the Weimaraner and they had the toy.
Busy Bee, yep.
Confirmation people were freaking out because the dog didn't have their favorite toy.
Or because this ring conflict meant that a couple of dogs ran out of order and I had to wait a couple of extra dogs, that's going to affect my run. Like things do happen at an event this large. There could be delays. They might need to fix equipment or dirt or whatever. And so you have to be flexible and don't let those things kind of derail your mental state.
Yeah, don't run around and make these predictions, right? Focus on your execution in the moment. Each run is independent of the other run. Treat it as a fresh opportunity. Most of all, do something that is going to make this event fun for you, win, lose, or draw. So for me, that's going to be eating lots of desserts. Dinner time, I like to order more than one dessert, have a little bit of everything that I like. I don't limit myself to just one dessert. And I go out with friends and it's a great time. As Sarah said, I've got that reunion mindset. So you know what? Even before I step into the ring, coming to the event was 100% worth it. And it will be for you too.
And that's it for this week's podcast. We'd like to thank our sponsors, St. Rocco's Treats, Synoviton OA, and hititboard.com. Check out the Teeter Teach It, only at hititboard.com. The Teeter Teach It is an easy-to-use tool that controls the amount of tip on your teeter so you can introduce motion to your dog in a gradual way. Go to hititboard.com for the new Teeter Teach It and other training tools and toys. Use discount code BDA10 to get 10% off your order. That's hititboard.com. Happy training!
Thank you for listening to Bad Dog Agility. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information, updates, and links to all our socials, just check out our website, www.baddogagility.com. If you haven't already signed up for our email subscription, we would love to have you join the BDA community. Until next time, take care.